This video will show you how you can use SQS and Lambda to process many messages in parallel without using any servers. SQS is a popular way to decouple the dependency of two or more systems. So in this example, we're going to create a table of invoices for customers in our SQS queue. So if you look at this table, there's nothing in it. So here is a tiny script that will push 100 of these JSON objects into SQS. So I'm just simply posting a customer ID and the ID. So let's run this script. And that's it. So we have 100 of these messages in our SQS queue. And there's a cron job that's running every minute that will read messages from the queue and import those messages into our invoice table. So straight out of the box, AWS doesn't really have a cron job service. There's no product named cron job in AWS, but what AWS has is something called CloudWatch and Lambda. And you can use these two products together to essentially create a cron job. So CloudWatch, one of the features that CloudWatch has is a scheduler, and you can create a scheduler right down to 1 minute. And of course, Lambda is a way to run functions in the cloud. So with CloudWatch and Lambda together, we have a cron job that's running every minute. So let's go back to our table and do a select all, and we can see that we have 100 rows in our table. So let's truncate that table for a second. So let's look at the cron job itself. So I'm using Serverless to create and manage our cron jobs. And if we look here, here is our cron job, and this is the name of the function, create invoices cron job, and it's running every minute. And this is the actual cron job. This is our Lambda entry point. So when the Lambda function runs, it's entering this point right here. And the cron job simply starts off by console logging a message, creating invoices in the dev environment. We create our database connection. We create some readers. And when all the readers are done, we terminate the database connection. So if we scroll all the way up to the top, we'll go through this and we'll see that this script, we have 20 readers. So when this cron job runs, we're creating 20 readers that dequeue at most 10 messages from SQS. And we're using long polling. We're setting our visibility timeout to 30. Our max number of messages to read is 10. And this is the location of our queue. And here is our dequeue messages function. This is our process messages function. This is our process customer function. So for every customer in our queue, we calculate the invoice for that customer. We insert into the database. We delete the message from SQS. Here is our insert into database function. And here is our delete message from SQS function. And here's our calculate invoice for customer function. So this is basically a placeholder right now. And in the future, what I would do is I would create something like an invoice manager, and then I would create a method, create invoice for customer, and return the actual amount, invoice amount. But for this purpose, what I'm basically creating is a framework that can be used to process many messages from SQS. So creating the invoice really is not important right now. I'm just creating a framework to process messages in parallel. And then we're back to our function. So this whole script is less than 2 pages of code. And so let's run this again. But instead of 100 customers, let's say we want to process 10,000 customers at once, and we want to do this as fast as possible. So what we want to do is we could just very easily create more cron jobs. So right now we have one cron job in our YAML file. So let's just create some more. So I've commented this out. So now we have 10 cron jobs in our YAML file. So to update this with Amazon, we simply just deploy this and wait. So our cron jobs have been deployed. So let's see, let's expand that. So we've got 10 cron jobs running every minute in AWS with 20 readers for each cron job. So 10 times 20, that's 200 readers looking to process messages from SQS. So let's go back to our table again. So just to make sure we have nothing in our table. So let's push 10,000 messages to SQS. And so we just pushed 10,000 messages to SQS, and now let's check our table, see what that's going on. So we've processed 950. Let's check again. 1265. So let's note the time. It's 5:59, almost 6 o'clock. Let's see how long it takes to process 10,000 messages. We're almost at 2,000. $28.50. And we're done. So if we look at our table, we have 10,000 rows. And if you look at the time, it's 6:04. So in 5 minutes, we were able to read 10,000 messages from SQS with just a tiny amount of code. less than 2 pages of code, I created a very tiny framework that can process 10,000 messages. And using serverless, it's really easy to create these cron jobs and manage them in AWS. So if we refresh our cron jobs, our CloudWatch page, we'll see we have 10 of these jobs running.